All right, we are now recording. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Just a quick discretion. This Zoom session will be recorded and will be viewed to the public that view the Samo Fund YouTube channel. For those of you who are joining us, make sure you mute yourself so we don't hear any background noises through the presentations. Xochitl will be presenting today, and if you have any questions, I'll let Xochitl be the one to decide whether to take them during her presentation or wait till the end or use the chat bar. Sarah will be monitoring the chat and we'll be going forward with that. So Xochitl, you're now gonna host. Thanks again for doing an OWLS part 2 today. And you're good to go.
All right, thank you, Riza, and hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Xochitl. I'm a park guide here at the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. Let me start sharing my screen for my presentation. I would like to remind everyone that I am no ornithologist, no biologist. All the research that I've done, it's based off my interest and what I've been learning, both here at the park and outside resources. So I titled my presentation, Look Who's Back, Owl Pellet Dissection. Just a little overview of what I will be talking about. Little review about what I talked about last time about owls, their diet, what are pellets, what can we learn from pellets, and then I will go into the dissection of a pellet. So once again, owls are raptors or birds of prey. There are two different types of owls. They are the Titonidae, which are typically the barn owls, which have, once again, the heart-shaped face, and then the Strigidae, which are more of your typical owls, or the more common owls. They are mostly active at night, so they are nocturnal animals, but they can also become diurnal. And they vary in different sizes, and they are also found all over the world except Antarctica, and there are about 250 species. And so we have about 5 different types of owl here at Samo. We have the barn owl, the western screech owl, the great horned owl here in the middle, the burrowing owl on the left, and the long-eared owl on the right. And depending on their size too and where they are found all over the world, they will have a different diet, but typically they will eat anything from insects. So like the smaller type of owls will eat more insects, some reptiles, amphibians, and then the larger type of owls will eat more rodents, rabbits, smaller mammals, and even snakes. So you may be wondering what pellets are. Or how they are produced, and essentially they are composed diet or food. So when an owl eats their prey, they will typically eat it head first, and they will swallow it whole, and then their digestive system will actually break it down. So it'll go through their esophagus and their proventriculus, and it will stay in the yellow area, which is the ventriculus, or their gizzard, which is what it's mostly referred to as. And so once it's there, it will actually break down, and the gizzard acts like a filter. So the filter will hold back all the bones, the teeth, the feathers, and the fur of their prey, and it will digest all the meat or all the protein. And as it keeps digesting all the meat per se, it'll start to get compressed into the shape of an owl's stomach. And depending on how often the owl eats or how much food is around the area, an owl can actually not continue eating until it regurgitates or spits out that pellet. And the way I like to think about it is if you've ever had a cat or been around cats, how cats spit up like a fur ball, it's almost like that same thing. So it's not considered scat, it's more of a regurgitation. And this is what it looks like. So as you can see, there are more bones, and there's a lot of fur or feathers. One thing that I didn't know before doing my research is that a lot of, or all raptors or all produce these pellets, but the owls are studied more often because of they have less stomach acids than a lot of other raptors. So for example, compared to an eagle or like a vulture, owls' stomachs are also a lot smaller, so they'll produce them more often, but they will also have more intact parts because of the stomach acids. They have less stomach acids than the other raptors. So that's why you'll have them dissected more often, or you'll see them too. And typically, an owl can produce 1 to 2 pellets every day or a night or after 8 hours. But once again, that is taking into consideration how much food they intake. So if they eat a small mammal or a reptile and it doesn't fill them up, then they will have to continue eating until that pellet is spit back out. And I have a short video that kind of shows what it will look like or how they regurgitate it. It's typically regurgitated pretty fast. Just so fair warning, some of you might find this disturbing, but I would like to show it because I think it's a good example of what it looks like. So this is a fledgling barred owl regurgitating a pellet. So as you can see, it's regurgitated pretty fast and almost right away. You may also be wondering, why are pellets studied, or what can we learn from pellets? It's a good indicator of if there's a raptor in the area. It also helps scientists determine the foraging patterns in raptor, or what type of raptor is in your area. So the photo that I have here is actually different pellets of different birds and different owls. As you can see here, we have very, very small ones. And then again, they will vary depending on the age or the lifespan of the raptor that is being studied. But typically barn owls are studied more often because they kind of more in the area or have the capacity to be in buildings in larger cities or metropolitan areas. And they will, like I said, did vary in color and size, but typically for a barn owl, which I will be dissecting today, they will have a darker color and they will be dry. So all the owl pellets will be typically not as moist as other raptors. For example, turkey vultures, they actually have the capacity to, I guess, launch it at when they feel threatened to someone, and they can, or another animal, and they can actually cause some, to some extent, some harm to the animal because they have so much stomach acid in their stomach. So here's another example of how the sizing can matter in a pellet. When I've seen that videos and what I've learned about pellets is that they will study them, and depending on the owl that they have either in their care or that they have in their area, they'll measure it just to see and help identify what type of owl or raptor that they have and how it's growing. In my research though, I also did find that you can actually learn a lot more besides what kind of raptor is in the area. It can actually help scientists, paleontologists study the history of an area. And I have another video describing that. I'm just going to start it off here.
Specimen, along with 100,000 others, was collected by field curator Bill Turnbull from the Nullarbor Plain region of southern Australia in the 1950s. And today, its information is being used to help preserve Australian habitats. Here's the neat thing about this congealed bird vomit. Nocturnal raptors.
So this is actually a study that was done in Australia of how they're taking owl pellets that have been found in caves, and how they're looking into that research to help identify more of the history that hasn't been known in Australia. This video is a little bit long, so I'm just going to be skipping some parts to really hone in on what the study has shown and what we can really learn from these owl pellets.
Into hundreds of thousands of years, these large owl pellet accumulations have given paleontologists a phenomenal record for what sort of rodents were historically found in the region. And just like how fossil life is stratified in layers of rock, the ages of rodents too become stratified the deeper you dig in these massive piles of raptor pellets. So why are we so interested in this information? Well, in the last 200 years since European settlement in Australia, the country has experienced an alarming rate of mammal extinction, greater than any other continent. Since there's no written record of what the mammal diversity of Australia looked like before Europeans arrived, scientists have to be creative with interpreting the country's plant and animal history, which in this case means sorting through these raptor pellets as a great starting point. This gives scientists a way to look at the past in order to help shape the future. And I've got a ton of questions about this. So recently we sat down with Dr. Matthew McDowell, a postdoctoral researcher at Flinders University in South Australia, to learn more about his work as a paleoecologist and his affection for raptor pellets.
This is a sample of the kind of thing that gets scooped up off of the floor of a cave with the fine dust gotten rid of.
Okay.
Now, that's usually made up of things like this that an owl has eaten and then regurgitated before it flies out to go hunting the next night. We don't have any of the really fresh ones, but they're all very glossy and mucus covered and yeah, maybe gross, but
kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, this has been washed pretty well except for these chunks on top which have been kept so that they could see what it looked like.
And then when you have all of this material, you're taking a pile like this and you're having to sort through all of it to figure out the species that are there.
Yeah, that's best done with the teeth for a couple of reasons. They're the most durable part of an animal's body, so they last the longest. But they're also complex shapes because different food is best processed by different types of teeth. And then you get to the stage here where you've only got the bits that are easily identified, which are mainly teeth and jaws. Once we go from this, we identify them, we work out whether it's the left or the right specimen, what kind of species it is. Then it goes to this stage where it gets put in a vial with a label.
With its own number.
Yeah, with its own number, individually, usually individually, sometimes in a lot if you've got millions of them like we do in this case.
So as you can see here, they have taken quite a bit of samples. Let me fast forward a little bit more to what their studies can actually show.
From relatively long time ago, how has the species and diversity of these caves from relatively long time ago, how has that changed in the last 200 years since Europeans have been in Australia?
Oh, that's a great question. Europeans in Australia were, I think, justifiably more interested in feeding their family by clearing a heap of land and planting wheat than they were in what little animals used to live there. You can learn just how much damage we did to the environment by comparing fossils that are maybe only 300 or 400 years old to what should be living in the area today. My opinion is that those young fossils are a much better indicator of what should be living in a park or a place today than the animals that are living there right now.
Ultimately, what do you do with this information now that you know what is in a particular cave or region?
Well, we can use it to work out a number of different things. For very young fossils, we can work out what should be in the national parks. Typically in Australia, there'll be 3 or 4 native mammals in a national park. But if you look at the fossil record, there's 20 to 25 native mammals that should be there. We can also use it to look at how climates have changed through time. And then we can take that information that we've learned from conditions in the past being represented by different animals, and we can then make predictive models to ask ourselves, well, if the climate conditions were like this, what animals would we expect to live in that area now in the future? And that is, in terms of conservation management, really important. You know,
so once again, they have been using and looking at these pellets in Australia to look at more and collect more data and help really determine what kind of animals were at that time. Before I continue, if anybody has any questions, you can ask them right now or put them in the chat, because I will be starting to do and going into the owl dissection now, the owl pellet dissection, I should say. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so then I'll just start setting up to do the owl pellet. So give me just 1 second. I'll leave the diagram ready for y'all to see in the meantime. Okay, so let me see. How is this view for everyone?
Can't see.
Let's see.
Okay.
Better?
I see your desk.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's good. This is where I will be doing the dissection. I have some examples of some owl pellets here that we've found and we have outside. These are actually two separate ones. I've actually found some here at near the VC or King Gillette Ranch, and these are still kind of fresh. So you can see these skulls are very, very big. There are about 3 skulls in here, and it's 2 pellets. And then I also have this one. Although I haven't seen any owls here, there's most likely a roost in the area, which is almost like a hangout spot that owls can have or are comfortable in the area being, just because of the amount of pellets that I found.
Okay, so
Do you have a question?
Yeah, it's not on screen view, I don't think. I'm seeing all of us, not your desk.
yeah,
So if
so-
you can, you could go to Xochitl's screen and there's the 3 little dots.
Okay,
You-
that's how she's
You
doing
could
it.
pin the video and you'll see it in full screen.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So if anyone, I'll show these one more time, so you all can see them very well.
So
I'll go
Chief,
back.
hold on 1 second. Can everybody see her screen okay? Anybody having problems?
I fixed
Steve,
it, I
you.
can.
You got it, Bonnie?
Yep, I just had to change my view.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Sochi.
Yeah, so once again, here is the owl pellet that I found with the help from Ranger Ken. These were found right at KGR, right by the entrance. There are about 3 skulls in here. Still has some debris. So I can tell this is a larger type of owl because if we had elf owls or burrowing owls here, which kind of tends to stick low ground, or even a burrowing owls can actually eat rodents, but if it was a smaller animal, or owl I should say, you would find more of like the exoskeletons of the insects and not so much of the bones. This one has really nice vertebrates here that I haven't really seen in the pellets that I've dissected. So I thought this one was pretty cool because you can actually see them. Although I haven't really been able to clean them. And by clean, I mean sterilize them. So the one that I have here is actually it's a pretty small, it's a barn owl pellet, but this one these are the ones that we buy for our programs, for our junior ranger programs. And these have all been sterilized or autoclaved. So I'm just gonna start with this one. I'm gonna start with opening it up. And because it has been cleaned, I like to use my hands so I can actually feel around. Some people like to wear gloves, or you can wear one glove and then use your other hand. But I'll also be using these tweezers and this microscope to kind of have a better view. So in the beginning, this is what it looks like. Can't really see any bones, but you will see more hair. And then I'll just start by breaking it up in the middle. And there's already one bone here that's sticking out. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
If I take it out, so this is the bone, the first bone that I found. And I'm just gonna go back to my sheet that helps me identify. I also have this one for you all to see. And if I put it next to one, it looks really similar to this one. Let me just, Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this shape here is pretty similar to a rodent one. So here's identify, and then it's actually part of their hind leg here. So most likely what I'll keep finding, this is another good thing too, is just to keep digging in more and figuring out what's in the pellet, because the more you find, the more clues you find, I consider the bones will help you continue to identify or reassure you what kind of animal it is. So here's another one. Let me see if I can get closer. So let me put that next to the chart. This one's pretty obvious. So the first one was this one, and this is the second one that we found. This is actually part of the pelvis, and again, it is part of a rodent. So here I have a piece that has been sticking out pretty good. Just gonna clean it. This one can be pretty small, but it is part of a jaw, because you have a very prominent tooth here, but also these smaller teeth. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna put it next to the chart one more time. So this is once again part of a rodent. And this is actually the left side of the rodent skull or their jaw. There have been times where I've done this activity either personally or with as a program, as a junior ranger program, and there have been times where they found different parts of a skull or different bones or different, so for example, like 4 hind legs, which that indicates that they ate more than one animal, and that is totally acceptable. As I did mention, depending on the size of the animal that they ate, they can eat one or more than one animal a night. So this is most likely part of their leg. Let me see. Oh, actually, I believe this is a hind leg for the size here, and that's actually a bird because it's on the outer side. Does anyone think it's anything else? Let me see. Or do you all agree that it could be a bird? I can move it around. Just because of the length of it, I'm assuming it's a hind leg of a bird.
Yeah, that looks.
It's a clever chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really nice and useful one. This is another one. This one, let me see if you can actually, can you see the little like dip in the bone or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could see it.
So this one, let's see. I think this was actually part of their front leg.
Oh, wow.
Or it could also be, no, it might be too big for this one. For either a rodent or the bird again. So you can see, what do you think? Who thinks it's a bird? and who thinks it could be a rodent. So this is the bird, and this is a rodent.
People, bird.
Bird, okay. I'll just leave it in the bird one then, because it's what we've been finding. Typically, I like to go big first and start off with the skull, because the skull is a really great indicator of the animal right from the get-go, right? Because it's such a huge piece. And as you can see here, I'll zoom in on the skulls. They're very, very different. You can also tell by the teeth. So if it has teeth, you can tell it's a mammal instead of a bird. Birds don't really have teeth, at least the smaller birds that the owls will prey on. So let me go and look for a skull. And the reason I also like to use my fingers or my hands bare is to really feel around. There have been times where people have used gloves and can't really feel it or get really into like the little niches of a skull. And then oftentimes they'll just like try really hard to break it, and it'll actually end up breaking up the skull into smaller pieces, which will make it harder to identify. And it's also cool just to have them intact. So here I'm just peeling away. Don't know where this, I don't think there's a skull here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So see, this is a much smaller skull. And I'm just slowly. So there's a lot of hair, I don't know if you can see that, in the eye sockets. So here's also where I can actually go in with the tweezers to help me take off some of the hair. If I couldn't do it with my hands. So that, all of this is actually came from the skull. This little piece kind of just like separated. And I have to be really careful here because all of this hair is just coming out. So this is pretty small. I've never had a piece like this, so it's gonna be very interesting. Let me go back to the skull. So. Does anyone think they know what this one is?
Is that a tooth or a beak at the very?
I believe it is a tooth. I'll zoom in on for you first. Is it blurry or is it good? Oh.
Blurry. That's good. That's good right there.
It's very small. Oh, right, like this?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you see? Because I can't really see. I think I see teeth, right?
I think so, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, okay, so let's see. Yeah, front teeth is very visible here.
Is it a vole?
Yeah, I think it might be. I don't think I have a vole here. But I have a chart here. Let me see if what the other one says, the one that I have. Oh, it's the same one. Let me see. I have another chart. So can you see the? I have a mole here in the screen that I'm sharing.
Ah, that's very.
Yeah. just based on the size it can. It could be a vole. Let's see if I can find another jaw, hopefully.
So what you see Xochitl doing is very similar to what happened with all the coyote poop. People went through looking for bones, just like what she's doing.
So here's another skull. You can see right away.
Oh, wow.
It's sticking out. Yeah, it's a big one compared to the other one, at least. And I think this one's actually intact. So I'm just gonna carefully peel it off. Because the other one, obviously we found the jaw first. And this one's kind of breaking off, but as you can see, it's still almost intact. This is also really good way we can actually get in with our fingers or just hold it with the hair, because the hair, in a sense, really compresses it and holds it together. So I'm just gonna take it with some tweezers here to help me keep it together. So now it's kind of like falling apart that I took out that big chunk, but here's one side. As you can see, it's a very prominent tooth sticking out. That's the inside. So this is the right side of a jaw. And I'll put that down here. And then here is the left side.
Cool.
Just gonna continue to stick these out. Very big eye socket here. And the left side. You can see the teeth. I don't know if you can see the teeth very well here. This is the other side of the jaw. So here we have both. So once again, this is the right and this is the left side. We put them down next to the chart. So this was the first skull that we had found. Obviously it's a lot smaller, but it could also be because of the tooth. Not that it's necessarily a different type of rodent, but also just the size in general of the rodent. So here we go. I was hoping we could find a bird skull, because I actually hadn't been able to find a bird skull. I usually just typically get some type of rodent, or haven't seen a shrew either in here. The vertebrates can also help, although some of them can be pretty similar. Here's another bone. This one's very small. See if I can get in with the this one is most likely part of their leg again. It's right here, front leg. So I'm going with a rodent. I'm gonna see if I can find any vertebrates.
Hey, Sochi, have you ever found bird feathers?
No, I actually haven't found bird feathers in any of the pellets that I've dissected. This is a vertebrate here. I'm trying to see if you can see that very well. Very, very small. But I also want to compare the ones that I've found. I know one of you mentioned how big the skull was that I found in the last one, but this one's actually a lot bigger in this pellet. And then as they did mention, in the studies, I thought it was really cool that they found almost like an alternative way or really used all the information that they could grasp from the owl pellets and going back to that data with all the teeth because teeth are actually the last, the strongest and also the last part of a bone, I guess, or of a skull that deteriorates. If y'all didn't know that. But besides that, let me see. What else? Oh, here's a good one too. This one might have been part of the skull because it did break off. It's very thin. And here's another one. Does this one look familiar? By any chance?
Is that a femur?
Yeah, it's actually front leg again. So here we have it here. I think this one's more of a rodent one too. Or a bird. So I'll leave that up for y'all to decide. These are the bigger parts. I haven't really found, there's only been a couple instances where I found the ribs, but since they're a lot thinner, they're a little bit harder, even the vertebrates. But once again, because owl pellets have less stomach acids than other raptors, we'll have more of these intact pieces. We're almost done. Actually, here are actually some ribs. They're very thin. Here we go. So very, very small and very thin. There's also another chart that we use for our dissection, and it's here, and it's a really helpful guideline. So we'll usually start from the beginning, and we'll ask if it has teeth, then it's a mammal. And then if it has no teeth, then it's a bird, and it helps us also identify a shrew, mole, or other different type of rodent, or even a mouse too. And I should also mention that if you do find any owl pellets near your home, you can also dissect it, and you can sterilize it by putting it in the oven and I guess almost like cooking it. This is another good one too. This one, let me see where I can put it. Based off the joint, see how it's very small opening there? I don't know if you all can see that.
Not really.
Let me try to get it with the magnifying glass here.
Oh, at the top?
Yeah, it's very, very small.
Yeah.
But it's also, this is the back side, I guess you can say, or the other side.
Yeah.
This one, I'm actually not sure of this one. So I'll just leave this in the middle. What I also like to tell people when they're not sure is that you can, make your own guess of what this piece is here. So if anyone wants to take a guess what this is.
Xochitl, you said put it in the oven, but somebody mentioned the microwave also.
I'm actually not sure. I haven't heard that you can put it in the microwave.
Huh.
So I know you can do it in a convention oven, but I don't know about a microwave.
Yeah.
Because a specific degree or temperature that it has to be in order for it to be sterilized and kill off the bacteria. So here's the other part of a jaw that we had found earlier. This is the right side. So it'll be like this. Very small teeth. And I think those are all the big bones. So I'm just gonna clear the plate to one side so you all can see it. Or actually, here's another good one too. Yeah, this is all from the same pellet. So this owl had a good lunch or dinner. There have been some that I found that are pretty big, and they'll actually usually have one skull. So that one was a pretty big one, but this one had two. And this one is actually part of their hind leg. So I'll just put it here. So let me once again put all the, would you all like to see them on the chart or on the plate? So I can, kind of leave it here for reference of all the other ones that we found.
Nobody's saying anything.
You're all muted.
Nobody's chatting anything. It seems easier to put it on there. Yeah, chart is the best.
Yeah, I think it really helps identify everything.
Someone asked if a gopher falls in under rodent.
Believe so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely a rodent.
So what's the coolest thing you've ever found, Xochitl?
Well, it would have to be this one when I thought about the bird skull. Or finding, I always think it's cool when we find two skulls. Because then you can almost see like, oh, maybe it ate not only like a rodent, but maybe like a shrew of some kind. So that's always cool, and always just to see how what's actually like all part of a rodent. There's some people that actually like put them all together, not with the chart, but they'll actually like spread them all out and kind of build it according to the bones.
Huh.
So that's cool too. So that's another great thing. If if you want to also, I did mention last time having an owl box in your neighborhood or in your area. It also will help get rid of rodents. But it's good to communicate with your neighbors to also not do the poison, putting that out, because that way, if one of the owls eats a poisoned rodent, then they will also be effective in that sense. Bonnie said, wait, what did I see?
And there are more than one rodent. Could it be because adults are feeding young versus an adult eating the whole rodent?
That can happen too, but also the rodent could be a younger rodent in compared to an adult, if that makes sense. um, the young will typically get more of the meat and not so much of the bones. So the parent will pick off the meat and give that to the younger bird. Yeah, and I should also mention, if you are sterilizing an owl pellet at home, you want to wrap it in aluminum foil and then put it in the oven. And you want to take it out and cool it. As you can see here, some of these have been cooked or have been placed in the jars sooner, so they're more intact. We've had these, and so the ones that I found, obviously over time, and they had been there for a while, so they were already kind of deteriorating, so they're broken up apart. And I didn't really want to mess with it and move with it. So yeah. There are 3 skulls in here, and there were only 2 pellets. So this one was really nice too. And just based off the size of the skull, I think it also could have eaten a squirrel, because we have squirrels here at KGR. So that's definitely possible. So yeah, if anyone doesn't have any questions, I think this is a good conclusion or good point to stop. And I can just, leave them here for y'all to see all the cool bones. There's this one too that actually has whiskers. I don't know if you can see it. I can try moving it around. It's the top one that has these whiskers. See, they're like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone wrote that the recommendation is in the oven 40 minutes at 325, and like you said, wrap in foil, but it stinks, they said.
Stinks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can stink. But generally, compared to other pellets, owl pellets don't really have a scent. Or it'll be less of a stronger scent. Obviously, because it's kind of cooking, and you'll smell it a little bit. But I know that they're in a sense fairly dry. I know turkey vultures or other eagles would be like a lot like watery and have a stronger scent because of, again, I believe it's because of the acids that they have in their stomach that cause it to have that scent. And other pellets too, you'll also have less hair, fur, feathers, so it'll mostly be like gunk.
Anybody have any questions? Has anybody ever found, Xochitl, do you know if anybody's ever found anything like a cat in a great horned owl, like a kitten or something? I know great horns will take small pets, but
I've never heard of them doing that, just because Well, maybe a very, very, like a newborn kitten of some sort, just because of how massive they can be compared to their size, and they usually like to just swallow their prey whole right from the get-go. And owls are a type of raptor that generally they will not eat their prey at the kill site. They will usually take it into their nest or where they're staying at their home, and then eat it there. There are some species that will eat it out in the open, but typically they do not like to eat it out in the open. There are also some that, well, if they're eating insects, then they'll swallow it or eat it during flight. But it's obviously a lot smaller.
Yeah, Bunny put that they'll pick up their own weight or less, not more than 4 pounds usually. Less.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. A lot of these owls, actually being 4 pounds for an owl is a pretty heavy weight. They don't, a lot of them, I think the biggest one compared to the 5 that we have, let me pull up that presentation one more time for you all to see the owls that we have at Samo. So these are the 5 owls that I will show you that we have here. I'll just let it load. So the bigger ones in size in comparison to the 5 here at Samo will be the barn owl and the great horned owl. And I think the great horned owl will range anywhere from 2 to 5 pounds, but even at those 5 pounds that it's heavy, and it's usually typically can be a female carrying more weight. But also the heavier they are, keep in mind that in the other presentation I did mention that they're typically not a fast flying raptor. That's because of their wings. So the heavier they are, the much slower that they will be. So it doesn't really work out for them to be on the heavier side. But they can, I know with the strength of their talons, I forgot the number, but during my presentation with Mike Mackey, he did mention that they have one of the strongest grips or weight that they can carry compared to their talon size to their body and other raptors. I think, I want to say it was something like 300 pounds per square inch or something like that. But generally it's also, they don't like to eat really anything bigger than their body size, but they're just so strong. And I don't know if any of the owls that we have here have eaten fish at the time where we did have fish, like at Paramount or at Peter Strauss. But there are some species of owls that will eat fish as well.
Mike said you're correct, 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And I actually have a talon here for my last example.
Xochitl, just to verify, owls, all their prey, they usually kill it before they swallow it.
Yes, correct. In some cases, it's not true for the insects, but they will take off, like if they have any, the correct word isn't thorns, but like any like spikes, they'll usually take that off, or sometimes they'll decapitate it, but just depending too on the species. But generally, yes, live prey, or they're, not live prey, they'll just break it and kill it instantly and then swallow it head first. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? And let me check the chat box too.
I don't see anything coming in on the chat box. Right.
Oh, I saw Riza made a comment about bones for toothpicks, but To also get into like those nitty-gritty areas, you can even get like a toothpick and kind of like carve around it or feel around it too if you don't feel comfortable using your hands. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, then this will conclude my presentation. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate you all joining today and learning more and coming back for round 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting.
This is probably one of the most popular activities when we do the BioBlitz.
Yeah.
Oh, they love it.
Young lady behind me here, they're so excited when they tape those little bones and they identified everything. And by the time the kids are done, the parents are sitting there and they're like, "Oh my God, go play somewhere." Here. And we also have a station like this at the Malibu Creek Visitor Center too, in the kids' room. And there's always like all the kids clustered around that thing, waiting their turn to get their fingers in there. It's really a great activity, and you can see the light go on in their head when you explain the food pyramid and how they're, apex predators, and they really learn a lot from this activity. It's a great one, hands-on, definitely.
There's been some cases too where the parents will actually sometimes be more interested in it than the kids. A lot of the kids, some of them are a lot smaller, so they really don't have like the patience or just like want to really tear it off right away. So the parents will be like, "No, like just wait." So it's really cool just to see the parents get into it too.
Were you saying something?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with Carrie. At Rancho Sierra Vista, I think it was Bat Night. They had several tables out, and that was actually one of the more populated tables, was with kids tearing apart owl pellets.
Yeah.
And always like that. It's always popular.
I know we bought them for our grandkids, and they were going to be doing it. And then their mom said, I better watch them do it because I don't think they can do this by themselves.
She's a biologist. So.
And so, yeah, she got a great kick out of it. And the kids were like first they went, "Why did you buy this for us?" And then it was like, "God, this is great."
Yeah.
There's several kits if you want to buy some for grandkids or kids on Amazon. You can get 6 sterilized pellets and a magnifying glass and 2 sets of tweezers and 2 sets of.
Actually, Steve, I'm pretty sure you took this picture that's behind me now.
Oh, because you're there. Probably did.
You could also buy the kits on Acorn Naturalist. Their facilities is located in Newbury Park. However, they are a catalog and online store, but they have a plethora of educational kits to use with families or K through 12. So we bought these owl pellets and the charts through that company. And you could just Google Acorn Naturalist and they'll pop up, and it's really cool educational resource.
Yeah, they're great.
Oh, Erin put down the link. Thank you, Erin.
I just want to say another great thing about pellets, no matter whose pellets they are. If you see some on the ground, it's a great way to find the owl during the day, because often the pellets are below where they roost and they like to eat. So it's a good tool, especially during social distancing with kids. If you hear the owl, go look for its pellets.
Yeah, definitely. And if you find them like in your neighborhood or in your area, not in the park, you like I said, can take it home, but I would not grab it with your hands. I would use gloves, at least gloves or a napkin or something to wrap it in, and then clean it at home.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.